question beneath the question. What do you call a people when their names have been scattered? What do you call a family when some remember the village, some remember the island, some remember the plantation, some remember the tribe, some remember the passport, and some only remember the wound? That is not a small question. That is a deep question. Because a name is not just a sound. A name is a container. A name tells people where to stand. A name tells the mind what to gather around. A name tells the heart what it belongs to. And for African people across the world, the question of naming has never been light. We have been called many things. Some names came from home. Some came from strangers. Some came from slavery. Some came from resistance. Some came from paperwork. Some came from love. And some came from pain wearing a fake mustache, pretending to be something else. Today, I want to set a name down on the table. Not as a command, not as a doctrine, not as a new box to trap people inside. A tool, a feather tool, a name that can help gather what was scattered. That name is African kin. One root, many branches, African kin. What this is really about. This video is about names, but it is really about structure. It is about how people see themselves, about how people speak themselves back into currents after the scattering. In the way of the feather, the question is always the same. Does this unfolding actually work over time? Does it hold up? Does it reduce strain? Does it help life remain workable? That question matters here. If a name brings clarity, reduces strain, and helps people hold together, the name has value. If a name causes confusion, shame, separation, or false hierarchy, the name needs repair. That is Maʔat. Not the fancy version, not pretty words. Maʔat means right fit. It means the workable range where life can continue without breaking down. So today, we are not asking which name sounds cool. Cool matters a little. We're not lie about that. Nobody wants a name that sounds like a rejected internet password. But the deeper question is something else. What name carries African people with truth, dignity, memory, future? That is the work. That is the feather test. And every word in this video has to pass it. Power lives in the one who names. One of the deepest forms of power is the power to name. When you name yourself, you speak from inside your own life. When others name you, they often speak from their need, their fear, their control, or their profit. That does not mean every outside name is evil. It means every outside name has to be tested. Because the name you accept becomes the name you start to wear. African people around the world have lived under many names made by others. Negro, colored, black, slave, tribe, minority, immigrant, urban, underdeveloped, third world, diaspora, ethnic, at risk, marginalized. Some of those words are historical, some are political, some are useful in certain rooms, some are outdated, some are just ugly, furniture in the house of language that nobody bothers to throw out. But notice the pattern. Most of those names describe African people from the outside. They describe the condition placed on us. They describe how system classified us. They describe what happens to us. They do not describe who we are to each other. That is the missing piece. A people need more than a category. A people need a family name, a gathering name, a name that holds memory without making the wound, the whole identity, a name that holds memory without making the wound the whole identity, a name that holds power without needing an enemy, a name that holds differences without breaking the family. That is what African kin is for. That is what African kin is for. White is a brand, not a fact. Let me say something plainly that polite conversation usually avoids. White people is a brand, not because anyone is actually white. Nobody is copy paper white unless they need a doctor. What we call white is a social name. It has been repeated in law, politics, family stories, business, media, schools, and census forms long enough that it feels normal, feels stable, feels obvious. It is not nature speaking. It is language hardened by repetition. That is what brands do. A brand repeats until the mind stops asking questions. That is not always bad. A good brand can organize people. It can create trust. It can help people recognize each other. It can carry a story across distance. The trouble is what that particular brand was tied to. The white brand was historically tied to power, exclusion, property and social ranking. Irish, Italian, German, English, Polish, Dutch, French, Spanish. These people were not always seen as the same thing. Over time, many of them were gathered into the social category of white. Not because they were literally white, because the system made the name useful. Now look at African people. We have the deeper root, the oldest human story, a continent, nations, languages, spiritual systems, rhythm, science, agriculture, architecture, medicine, mathematics, trade memory, trade, memory, survival, beauty. But globally, we do not have one simple family brand that most of us can use without an argument breaking out at the table. That is not a small gap, that is a structural gap. And where there is a structural gap, Maʔat asks for repair. The feather method starts with Sesh, what is known. What do we already know about African people? We know we are not one small thing, not one look, not one shade, not one language, not one religion, not one nation, not one tribe, not one history. We are ancient and modern, continental and diasporic, village and city, indigenous and mixed, Muslims, Christians, traditional, spiritual, secular, and many combinations in between that no form has a check box for. We are Wolof, Yoruba, Akan, Igbo, Congo, Zulu, Exo, Somali, Amara, Oromo, Fulani, Mandinka, Ive, Shona, Kikuyu, Nubian, Berber, Torak, and thousands more. We are Haitian, Jamaican, Guyanese, Trinidadian, Barbadian, African, American, Afro-Brazilian, Afro-Colombian, Garifuna, Afro-Cuban, Afro-Mexican, Afro-European, Afro-Arab, Afro-Asian, Black British, Black Canadian, and much more. So any name that tries to flatten that will fail. Any name that says, forget your tribe, will fail. Any name that says, forget your nation, will fail. Any name that says, only this ancient culture counts, will fail. And any name that says, only this skin shade counts, will fail. The known truth is this. African people are a family of many branches. The name has to honor that. One root, many branches. That is the first known thing. Shef, Shef. What is missing? Now, Shef means what is missing, what is unclear. The missing piece is not culture. We have culture. The missing piece is not history. We have history. The missing piece is not genius. Please, we have been making something out of nothing since before nothing filed a complaint. The missing piece is a shared everyday name. A name that can be used by the child in Atlanta, the elder in Accra, the drummer in Bahia, the mother in Kingston, the student in London, the farmer in Kenya, the healer in Haiti, the teacher in Trinidad, and the artist in Johannesburg. A name that does not erase local identity. A name that does not sound like a government report. A name that does not depend on being oppressed to make sense. A name that does not need whiteness to define itself. A name that does not turn Africa into a museum. A name that does not turn the diaspora into a footnote. A name that can be spoken with warmth. A name children can learn. A name elders can bless. A name artists can make beautiful. A name organizers can use. A name families can say at the table without translation. A name that tells the person carrying it, you belong. You are not random. You are not isolated. You are not just a census box. You are kin. This is the piece that was missing. Why not just say black? Someone will ask the obvious question, why not just say black? So let me be honest about black. Black has power. Black is beautiful. Black has carried struggle. Black has carried music. Black has carried resistance. Black has carried style. Black has carried the kind of seasoning that makes the ancestors lean forward at the table. This is not about throwing away black. Do not misunderstand me. Black has done work. Black still does work. But black is also a color label. And color labels came through a racial system. The same system that called someone or some people white, call others black. Which means black can be powerful and black can be ours. And black is still partly shaped by the same frame we are trying to outgrow. So here is the move. African kin, K-I-N, does not replace black. African kin gives black a root. Black tells the world how it usually classifies us. African kin tell us how we recognize each other. Black can be the public shield. African kin can be the family name. Black can be the banner in struggle. African kin can be the home language of belonging. Both can exist. No panic. No language police. No committee with clipboards chasing people at the checkout, asking them to fill out a form. The question is not which word we must delete. The question is which word gives the family the clearest structure for the future. For that, African kin has strength. Black Black was never designed to carry. African kin has strength. Black was never designed to carry. Why not just say African? Someone else will ask the other obvious question. Why not just say African? Good question. African is the root. African is necessary. African should not be removed from anything. But African by itself creates confusion in everyday life, and we have to be honest about that too. Some continental Africans hear African as a land-based. You're African if your feet are on the continent. Some diaspora Africans hear African and feel distance because they were cut from exact lineages by ship and centuries. Why not just say African? Someone else will ask. The other obvious question, why not just say African? Good question. African is the root. African is necessary. African should not be removed from anything. But African by itself creates confusion in everyday life. And we have to be honest about that too. Some continental Africans hear African as a land-based. You're African if your feet are on the continent. Some diaspora Africans hear African and feel distant because they were cut from exact lineage by ships and centuries. Some people say I am Jamaican, not African. Some say I am African American. Some say I am Nigerian first. Some say I am from my tribe first. Some say Africa is too broad. Some say Africa is home. All of that is part of the picture. None of it is wrong. The frustration is real on every side. So African remains the root, but kin adds the bridge. African kin says this. You may be from the continent, you may be from the diaspora, you may know your exact people, you may not. You may carry many mixtures. You may speak English, French, Portuguese, Spanish, Arabic, Swahili, Yoruba, Khoi, Creole, Patois, Wolof, or the language of your grandmother's kitchen. You are still part of the wider family if you claim African root. That is why the name works. African gives origin. Kin gives relationship. Together they make a whole structure. What is emerging? Now, Seef, S-E-E-F. What is emerging? The name emerging is African kin. Say it slowly. African kin. It has two parts. African is root. Kin is family. African points to origin, memory, land, and inheritance. Kin points to relationship, care, duty, and belonging. Together, the name says something specific. We are not just a population. We are not just a market. We are not just a race. We are not just a problem to be studied. We are not just a category to be managed. We are kin. That changes the posture of the whole conversation. A category can be ignored. A market can be exploited. A race can be ranked. A minority can be managed. But kin must be faced differently. Kin means responsibility. Kin means recognition. Kin means what happens to you matters to me. Kin means your wound is not my entertainment. Kin means your success is not my threat. Kin means I do not need to be exactly like you to stand with you. That is the shift. African kin is not a slogan. It is a correction. It repairs the gap between continent and diaspora. It repairs the overfocus on color. It repairs the habit of letting others name us first. It repairs the loneliness of scattered identity. Not perfect, not perfectly. No name does everything, but the direction is right. That is Maʔat. HRP, HARP, the resolution, the synthesis. African kin is a gathering name. It does not stop or it does not replace Yoruba. It does not replace Akan. It does not replace Igbo. It does not replace Wolof. It does not replace Congo. It does not replace Zulu. It does not replace Somali. It does not replace Ethiopian. It does not replace Jamaican. It does not replace Haitian. It does not replace African American. It does not replace Afro-Brazilian. It does not replace Afro-Colombian. It does not replace any branch. It gathers the branches. That distinction matters more than it sounds. Unity that erases difference becomes control. Difference without unity becomes scattering. African kin stands between those two failures. It says, keep your branch, honor your people, speak your language, remember your ancestors, love your nation, carry your island, respect your tribe, and still recognize the wider family. This is not either or. This is a layered identity. So a Yoruba man from Lagos can say it like this. I am Yoruba. I am Nigerian man. I am African kin. A woman from Kingston can say it like this. I am Jamaican. I am Caribbean. I am African kin. A man from Detroit can say it like this. I am African American. I am of the diaspora. I am African kin. A child from Port-au-Prince can say it like this. I am Haitian. I am a child of resistance. I am African kin. That is the pillar, stable, upright, not forcing sameness, not accepting separation, holding the middle so the family can stand. The purpose of the name. So what is this name actually for? Why use African kin? The purpose is not decoration. The purpose is function. 5 clear functions. First, belonging. Many African descendant people live with broken lineage. They may not know the exact ethnic group. They may not know the exact language. They may not know the original family name. African kin says even where the records were broken, the relationships remain. Second, repair between continent and diaspora. There has been too much separation, too much you are not really African, too much you sold us out, too much you forgot us, too much you think you are better, too much pain talking to people who never sat down long enough to repair anything. African kin does not magically solve that, but it gives us a better place to begin. Third, depth, past, color. Black is real as a social experience. African kin reaches deeper than color. It reaches root, relation, and responsibility. Fourth, posture. For children, imagine a child saying, I am African kin. That sounds different from saying only I am a minority. It sounds different from I am disadvantaged. It sounds different from I do not know where I have come from. African kin gives the child a bridge, not a fantasy, a bridge. Fifth, a positive rally point. A rally point matters. Movement needs words. Family needs words. Healing needs words. Commerce needs words. Art needs words. Education needs words. Words are not everything, but without the right word, the pattern struggles to hold its shape. That is why this name matters. Function, not decoration. The family eats. What African kin is not. Repair early. But let me remove the confusion before it starts. African kin is not a religion, not a cult, not a new race box, not a claim that every African person is the same, not a demand that every person of African descent think alike. That would be boring, also impossible. We cannot even agree on how much seasoning is too much seasoning. Let us be serious. African kin is not anti-European, not anti-Asian, not anti-indigenous original people, not anti-anyone. It is pro-clarity, pro-repair, pro-family, pro-root, pro-future. It is a name for African people and people of African descent who want a shared language of belonging. That is all. And that is enough. A name does not have to dominate the world to be useful. A name has to help the people who carry it function better. That is the way of the feather. Does it reduce strain? Does it increase clarity? Does it help the pattern hold together? If yes, use it. If not, leave it. No force, no pressure, no identity police, just a tool placed on the table where baobab, sun, feather. Every strong name needs a visual memory, something the eye can hold, something a child can draw, something an elder can recognize without a translator. For an African kin, the symbol is simple. Baobab, sun, feather. The baobab is the root and the branches. A living family can spread wide without losing depth. The baobab proves it. Ancient trunk, many limbs, same tree. The sun is raw. Identity has to become action. A name that never moves is just a label, sitting on the couch, asking for snacks. The sun rises, The sun works. The sun warms what it touches. The feather is Maʔat. Carry lightly, not weakly, lightly. There is a difference. Light means not to carry what breaks the heart. Light means not to carry false shame. Light means not to carry hatred. As your only fuel, light means not pretending everything is fine when it is not. Light means you name the misfit and repair what can be repaired and release what cannot. So the symbol says it all. Root like the baobab, alive like the sun, balanced like the feather. That is African kin. One root, many branches, walking towards Maʔat. SHMS, Shums. How to use it? Now, Shums action application. How do you actually use this? Start small. Do not overbuild it. Do not turn it into a committee with 14 subcommittees and a logo. Debate that last 6 years. Just use it. Say it in your bio. African kin. Say it when teaching children. We are African kin. Say it when gathering across the diaspora. Peace to my African kin. In Brazil, peace to my African kin. In Ghana, peace to my African kin. In Haiti, peace to my African kin. In London, peace to my African kin. In the islands. Say it when honoring differences. You're Akan. I am African American. We are African kin. Say it when repairing division. We do not have to be the same branch to share a root. Say it in art, in business, in family history, work, in community, projects, in schools, in podcasts, in music, in everyday conversation. And each time, let the meaning stay clean. African kin means this. I recognize African root. I honor my branch. I refuse names built only on injury. I choose relation over separation. I choose repair over ego. I choose future over confusion. This is the practice, not just the name, the practice. Carry lightly, repair early. A people can survive without one name. We have proven that. We survived scattering, ships, colonies, stolen languages, borders drawn by strangers, being renamed, being misnamed, being unnamed. But survival is not the final goal. Coherence is deeper. Repair is deeper. Inheritance is deeper. The question now is not only what we survived, the question what we are building, that our children can stand inside without shrinking. That is why this name matters. African kin. It is simple. It is not perfect. No name is. But it is workable. It carries root. It carries relation. It carries dignity. It carries room for difference. It carries a future. So here's the invitation. Try it on. Speak it. Test it. Challenge it. Use the feather on it. Does it bring clarity? Does it reduce strain? Does it help the family recognize itself? If it does, carry it forward. Not heavy, not force, lightly with truth.